Hi there, I'm Phil, and in these story analysis videos, I take a look at a film in terms of its story structure, character arcs and themes. Today, we're looking at Good Will Hunting. Good Will Hunting was written famously by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. They won the Oscar for it.
God, I know we're forgetting somebody.
Whoever we forgot, we love you and we
love
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
It was directed by Gus Van Sant, and it stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Robin Williams, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver. The story behind the making of this film is rather well known, how Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote this for themselves to act in, and their struggles to finding a producer and director who would agree to them playing these roles. But they were very savvy in the way they wrote this script.
And then we knew we had to get a movie star, otherwise no one was going to make the movie. So we wrote a part that would be short in duration in terms of filming, have big monologues, and be really like sexy and cool and would appeal to an actor who wanted to, chew the furniture.
And of course, Robin Williams won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for this film as well.
Thank you, Ben and Matt. I still want to see some ID.
The story, of course, revolves around young Will Hunting, a math genius who comes from South Boston. This does follow a pretty classic three-act structure. The inciting incident for the film is when Stellan Skarsgård's Lambo posts a problem, an equation for his students to solve.
I also put an advanced Fourier system on the main hallway chalkboard. And I'm hoping that one of you might prove it by the end of the semester.
And then it gets solved instantly by some anonymous student.
Who did this? Jack?
Wasn't me.
Nimish?
No way.
This leads to him posting a second, harder problem.
That's people's work. You can't graffiti here. Don't you walk away from me!
Which leads to them discovering that the young janitor is the one who's been solving the problems.
Oh my God.
That's the inciting incident for the A-plot. The A-plot in this case being the journey of young Will Hunting, fulfilling his talent as a math genius, being taken under wing by Lambo and being tutored by him, and Lambo's ambition to seeing Will Hunting fulfill his potential. Part of that A story is the relationship with Robin Williams' character as the therapist.
Let's let the healing begin. Would you excuse us?
Yeah, please, Tom.
You too, Jerry.
The B story, of course, is the relationship with Skylar, Minnie Driver's character. And the inciting incident for that, the meet cute moment, happens in the bar.
Is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend?
You're an idiot. I've been sitting over there for 45 minutes waiting for you to come and talk to me.
So the first act is taken up with Lambo trying to track down this kid.
Got this job through his PO, you can call him.
P.O.?
Yeah, parole officer.
Meeting Skylar.
There's my number. So maybe we can go out for coffee sometime.
And establishing the relationship between Will and his friends and South Boston.
You shut the fuck up. I know what you ordered. I was there.
So give me my fucking sandwich.
You mean your sandwich? I bought it.
I remember when people at Miramax came to us and said, could you make it PG-13? There's no violence or sex to speak of. It's just, and I said, what's making it rated R? And they said, the language. And I said, okay, well, so we could loop a couple lines. And they go, yeah, but you're only allowed, I think at the time you were allowed to say the F word 3 times. And I said, okay, well, how many are we off by? And they said, you go over by 145.
The first act turning point is after Will's been arrested and is facing a jail sentence. And for the A-plot, it's when Lambo meets with him and makes him this offer.
I've spoken to the judge, and he's agreed to release you under my supervision.
Now, Will doesn't accept that offer immediately. He rejects the call to adventure, if you like.
All right, I'll do the math, but I'm not going to meet with any fucking therapist.
But the very next cut shows us his acceptance of the offer. And the first act turning point for the B-plot is when Will phones Skylar and actually asks her out on a date.
Skylar.
Yep.
Hey, it's Will.
Who?
It's Will.
You know, the really funny, good-looking guy you met at the bar the other night?
I don't recall meeting anyone who matches that description. I think I'd remember.
And he's now compelled to go to these meetings with these therapists as Lambo tries to find a good fit for him. And he very quickly, by reading their books and doing his research, works out how to push their buttons and what their fundamental flaw is and how he can basically ruin the session and drive them away.
Do you find it hard to hide the fact that you're gay?
What are you talking about?
Afternoon delight. Hey, afternoon delight.
I have better things to do with my time.
Then he meets Robin Williams as Sean, and the same old tricks aren't working.
I think you're about one step away from cutting your fucking ear off.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Think I should move to the south of France, change my name to Vincent?
Until he brings up the wife.
If you ever disrespect my wife again, I will end you.
I'll understand if you don't want to meet with me again.
Thursday, 4 o'clock. Make sure the kid's here.
So the first half of Act 2 is taken up with the romance with Skylar and the fun times there.
Bring me another Mai Tai!
And finding Will a therapist. So bear in mind that Sean, the Robin Williams character, is really a supporting character for the A plot. His only reason for being in the story is to help Will overcome whatever emotional baggage he's got so that he can fulfill his genius. As far as Lambo's concerned, that's all he's there for. And Skylar doesn't have anything to do with that A plot, and for the first half of the film, she's just there to be the girlfriend. Now, as Matt Damon says,
he wants to give full flight to this thing that is inside of him, but he cannot do it without sacrificing something that he can't cope with sacrificing, which is this neighborhood and these friends of his.
But he doesn't trust anyone to help him with that. He doesn't trust Lambo, even though he's working at the university to try and expose himself to this environment. And deep down, he doesn't want to leave Boston and his friends. But Sean has him pegged.
You know what occurred to me? No. You're just a kid. You don't have the faintest idea what you're talking about.
Why, thank you.
It's all right. You've never been out of Boston. You're terrified of what you might say. You move, Chief.
The midpoint of the film for the A-plot comes after a couple of sessions of absolute silence where they will not talk, and then Will finally does talk.
You know, I was on this plane once, and I'm sitting there and,
The midpoint shit gets real moment for the B-plot is when Will starts to take the relationship with Skylar seriously.
I was wondering if you'd give me another crack at it, let me take you out again.
What are you doing here?
I couldn't wait till tomorrow.
So the second half of Act 2, the therapy with Sean is now beginning to work. They're talking, at least. And every now and then, Will opens up a little bit more and a little bit more.
I love you.
The second act turning point for the B story, the relationship with Skylar, comes in this moment.
I don't love you.
I love you.
Now Will gets a second chance at this and he screws it up again. Because he's not ready yet for a true committed relationship.
Take care.
Someone's always coming around here.
But this scene with Ben Affleck's Chucky is where the A plot and B plot really collide.
Why is it always this? I mean, I fucking owe it to myself to do this or that. What if I don't want to? No. Fuck you. You don't owe it to yourself. You owe it to me.
Which then leads us into the second act turning point for the A plot, which begins with Mum and Dad arguing.
It's not about you, you mathematical dick. It's about the boy. You get that?
And the second half where we find the truth about Will's childhood.
I mean, have you had any experience with that?
And the breakthrough moment.
It's not your fault.
I know.
It's not your fault.
Oh my God!
Now, if there's any therapists watching, you know that's not how it really works. It doesn't happen that quickly. But for the sake of the movie, this becomes the breakthrough moment. This becomes the moment that Will is effectively healed. His trauma has been revealed. He knows it's no longer his fault. He knows that wall that he's put up against people is largely because of this trauma, this childhood trauma. And now, in a sense, he's able to grow finally and actually get one of those jobs using his talents.
Yeah, I'm Will Hunting. I'm here about a position.
That's the end of the A plot. He's fulfilling his potential as a math genius, and the therapy is complete.
So that's it? So we're done?
Yeah, that's it. You're done. You're a free man.
But we need to resolve the B plot, the love story, which is about moving towards love, Skylar, and away from his childhood, away from his friends and Chucky.
It's not there.
And from Boston, his home. One of the great things about this script is it's not just the story of Will and the girlfriend, or even the relationship between Will and Sean. There's an arc to the relationship between Lambeau and Sean. We are mostly in Will's point of view for this film. He's the protagonist after all. But when we break out of his point of view, we're with Sean. And we're in these scenes between Sean and Lambeau, where that relationship, that old friendship, is put through the ringer and finds a resolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the presence of greatness. Professor Gerald Lambeau, Fields Medal winner for combinatorial mathematics.
Took me over 20 years to do something worthy of a Fields Medal.
Well, maybe he doesn't want what you want. There's more to life than a fucking Fields Medal.
It's about my medal, is it? Oh, God, I can go home and get it for you. You can have it.
Oh, please don't. You know what, Jerry? Shove the medal up your fucking ass, all right?
Sean,
Me too, Jerry. Yeah, good.
They clearly have different priorities. And in fact, they embody the choice that Will is being presented. Follow a career in math and maybe win the medal, or follow love. Which of these two men would he rather be like? The choice that Will makes, however, is to go after the girl. That is obviously, in terms of growth arc for the character, the right choice to make. But he ended up abandoning the A plot.
If the professor calls about that job, just tell him sorry.
He chose to do what Sean would have done.
I had to go see about a girl.
Rather than what Lambeau wants him to do. So Lambeau and the A plot and the career options are unsuccessful. But the B plot and the character arc and the resolution and possibly the love story, hopefully Skylar will take him back, are resolved happily. But as Matt Damon says here,
I think that this character will go on to do great things, but to do that, he makes the only choice that will lead him down that road, I think.
And of course, that final shot of him driving across the country to Skylar is not unlike the end to many romantic comedies where they do the big run to the airport. And while Skylar is simply the girlfriend at the very beginning of the film, she does become a strong, independent character in her own right.
It is actually important that I learn this. It's really important. All right. To me. Okay?
So the theme for this film, I think, is articulated in that second act turning point.
It's not your fault. Don't fuck with me, all right?
The character of Will starts at the beginning of the film believing he doesn't deserve a better life, believing he is responsible for where he is and for what happened to him during childhood, like so many children with abusive parents. He's been carrying around this guilt, and to mask that, he sets up this emotional wall against people. He doesn't want to have an emotional connection with anyone, not a real one, beyond the relationship he has with his friends. And that's why the speech by Ben Affleck's Chucky towards the end is so profound. He's the one person who finally does get through to him and compel Will to make a choice that makes a difference.
Look, you're my best friend, so don't take this the wrong way. In 20 years, if you're still living here, coming over my house to watch the Patriots game, still working construction, I'll fucking kill you.
The spine of the film, the thing that holds together the A plot, is, for me, I think, unfulfilled potential. Lambeau fulfilled his potential as far as he's concerned. And Sean, as far as Lambeau is concerned, did not fulfill his potential.
You ever heard of Jonas Salk?
Sure, cured polio.
You've heard of Albert Einstein?
Will is a young Einstein. He doesn't want to see that kind of genius go unfulfilled. But then that argument is countered by Sean with this example.
Hey, Timmy! Yo! Who's Ted Kaczynski? Unibomb.
So that's my take on Good Will Hunting. If you like these kinds of videos, you know what to do. If you'd like to learn more about filmmaking, check out my book linked in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel and maybe see some videos I can't put here on YouTube, consider joining my Patreon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Son of a bitch. He stole my line.